December 6th, 1921. Meehan's government is swept away in an avalanche of public scorn. Mackenzie King's Liberals become the new government. Prime Minister Meehan and 10 of his cabinet members lose their seats. In 5 provinces, no Conservative candidate was elected. Great tidal wave carries Liberals and Progressives to victory from coast to coast, reported one newspaper. Under Thomas Carrar, the Progressives became the second largest party in Parliament. The two-party pattern of federal politics was broken. Parliament was split 3 ways. One reporter of the day wrote, "No greater political revolution has ever taken place as a result of a Canadian general election." Thomas Alexander Carrar became the new leader of the West. His Progressive Party emerged as a voice for the farmers' movement. Thomas Carrar grew up in Manitoba. He was a teacher, a farmer, and in 1907 became president of the Manitoba Grain Growers Association. Carrar was a passionate and articulate spokesman for the Western point of view. He was drawn to politics. Although he had no experience as an elected official, he was appointed as the Minister of Agriculture in Robert Borden's Union government in 1917. He was one of several outsiders brought into the government to provide a show of national unity during the First World War. Once the war was over, he found himself part of a government that believed in high tariffs. In 1919, he resigned in protest. 9 other Western members of Parliament followed. With the slumping post-war economy, Western farmers were desperate for free trade with the United States. Neither the Liberals nor the Conservatives were willing to put their full support behind this. The time was right for the birth of an independent political movement. It would represent Western interests. February 27, 1920, the National Progressive Party is born. The next day, national headlines read, "Farmers force change in seats in the Commons." The new party comprised of Ontario and prairie farmers from the Canadian Council of Agriculture and their dissident members of Parliament who had resigned a year earlier. The Progressive Party was unique. It had no policy platform and no official leader. Each candidate was free to run on whatever issues they chose. In the media, Thomas Carrar was the Progressive Party's leading spokesman. During the 1921 election campaign, he claimed that Meehan's government was in the pockets of Canadian businessmen. "It is a government controlled by big business," he said. "The issues facing the Canadian people never were more momentous than they are today." He campaigned the whole country. One newspaper said he represented the new thought in Canadian politics. Election night. The National Progressive Party saw overwhelming victory in the West. They became the second largest party in Parliament. The Progressive Party was plagued with internal fighting. They refused the position of official opposition. Although the party collapsed in 1935, their existence redefined Canadian politics. It was perhaps the most important third party in the country's political history, wrote one contemporary historian. For 10 years, the Conservatives had governed the country. In 1921, with Meehan at the helm, they suffered overwhelming defeat. At the end of the First World War, unemployment was rising and industry declining. Recession hit Canada. The Liberals blamed the government. They accused them of mismanagement, corruption, and overspending. In a speech made a few months before the election, Meehan said, "Our finances are the most secure and the most sound. Canada has proportionately less and less suffering than any other country that went through the war." He warned that it would not only be absurd but disastrous to vote for the Progressives or Liberals. Meehan campaigned under the name of the National Liberal and Conservative Party. He hoped to make permanent the wartime unionist coalition of conservatives and pro-conscription liberals. Very few liberals stayed. The conservatives were virtually unelectable in Quebec. The conscription crisis of 1917 had caused deep resentment in the minds of French Canadians. The West also proved difficult for Meehan's conservatives. They strongly campaigned to win Ontario, British Columbia, and the Maritimes. They failed. It was time for a change. On election night, one reporter wrote, "East of the Ottawa River and west of the Great Lakes, conservatism as a political force has ceased to exist." 5 provinces oust Tories. It was reported that there was a huge anti-Meehan majority. He lost his own seat. The choice of the nation was Mackenzie King. One newspaper wrote, "Laurier's mantle falls upon King." Throughout the election campaign, the Liberals focused on discrediting Meehan and the Conservatives. "The affairs of Canada are in the hands of a little group of political autocrats," claimed Mackenzie King. On the day after the election, one reporter asked him to comment on the results. King replied simply, "The people have spoken and they demand actions from me rather than words. They want a return to a representative and responsible government." The Liberals were 1 seat short of winning a majority government. They formed the first minority government in Canadian history. The majority of Canadians were allowed to vote for the first time in the 1921 election. They could also run for office. 1 woman was elected. Agnes MacPhail of the Progressive Party became the first woman to sit in the Canadian House of Commons. The 1921 election dramatically changed the Canadian political landscape. Canada's first legitimate third party had emerged. The 2-party pattern of federal politics was broken permanently. Regionally based politics in Canada started to surface. Women entered the political arena. A political revolution had taken place. Canadian politics had changed forever.